On diversity in Hollywood, you wrote this week in the Huffington Post, a new study shows that decision-making in the entertainment industry continues to be dominated by white men, and the result is often a skewed vision of America. Well, isn't America dominated by white men?
That is true.
And Latinos.
Yeah, that's true. I had as my guest Darnell Hunt, who runs the Ralph J. Bunche Center here at UCLA, and they do this annual diversity report, and sadly the numbers don't seem to change much at all year by year. And so you continue to get this view out of Hollywood in the movies and TV shows that we watch that doesn't give any sort of complex view about race. There is no complexity of character in much of the stuff that we see.
But Hollywood is liberal Hollywood, isn't it?
Yeah, so they say.
Are you surprised then by this?
You know, that's always been interesting to me, how Hollywood can be liberal, but not liberal enough to make diversity a priority. I have some experience with this when I was on NPR, and you may remember this some years ago when I was on, I'm still on public radio, but I'm distributed through a company called PRI, where for years I worked for NPR. After a few years at NPR, I walked out of NPR, and nobody in their right mind leaves a great gig at NPR. I'm the first black person in the history of this country to have his own NPR show 5 days a week. And people are like, what, you idiot, how could you walk away from a gig on NPR 5 days a week? And I walked away because when I went in the door, I was promised that diversity and inclusion were going to be real issues inside of NPR. And I love NPR, so I still do public radio to this day. But the company wasn't moving fast enough. And so I felt that the only way to make a statement really about that was for me to walk away and say, unless you get serious about this, you know, I don't want to be the spook, pardon the pun, the spook who sat by the door. You got to be serious about real diversity and real inclusion. So my point is that when you think of NPR, let the Republicans tell it, it's a liberal bastion of radio, and it's being funded by taxpayer dollars, and they always want to wipe it out. Remember Mitt Romney said, if I get elected, you know, Big Bird is toast, basically. So that Republicans love beating up on NPR because it's a liberal bastion, and yet it's not so liberal where the board has a bunch of people of color on it, where there are people of color who are hosts throughout the day. So sometimes this word liberal is a misnomer.